Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Four Pillar Podcast, where we stand for family, for faith, family, fitness, and finance, baby. That's our four pillars. And today we are going to talk about masculinity and femininity. Is that correct, Kylie?
That is correct.
Okay. And we have Kylie Lashley here today, so we have a woman's perspective when we talk about these two topics. A very controversial topic of the day, I believe, that is playing a big impact on how people are acting and viewing stuff. And, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Matt, are you toxic in your masculinity?
According to this list, you and I both are.
Really?
Yeah.
And we have a list here. We printed off. It's the traditional gender stereotypes. And where did you find this at, Kylie?
It was the first image that came up on Google. So I'm sorry, I don't have the exact website. It was just when you type in
statistical.
Yeah, traditional gender roles, this is the very first image that comes up. Just to kind of run over some of the bigger ones, they're complete opposite. The feminine and the masculine, they're complete opposite of each other. Like the feminine says not aggressive, dependent, easily influenced, submissive, passive, kind, tactful, nurturing. On the men's side, it's aggressive, independent, not easily influenced, dominant, active, worldly, tough, less sensitive to others' feelings. I'm not going to read that because I don't know what that says.
Not very desirous of security. Is that the one you're
Yeah,
looking at?
that's the one I was going to read. Cruel, blunt, and non-nurturing, which I do not like that those three are on there.
Which one was that for, men?
The last three on the feminine.
Not nurturing.
Yeah, so the last three on the feminine, it says kind, tactful, or nurturing. And on the men, it says cruel, blunt, and non-nurturing. And the blunt, I would probably agree with that. Men seem to be more blunt, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. But the not nurturing and the cruel, I think that's very aggressive to put that stereotype on all men.
Now, yeah. So this is just saying this is the stereotype of what masculinity is,
Right.
but it's not necessarily what you would say the attributes of masculinity. And
No, I don't think that at all.
Femininity, is that feminine or femininity? Am I saying this correctly?
Yeah, femininity. I listened to it on Google to make sure. Yeah.
Femininity. So I think so we want to talk about femininity and masculinity, and so basically the big controversy is that basically there's this toxic masculinity, which is like these stereotypes that how men are acting and even women are acting that are not correct, I guess, or I'm not, maybe not correct, but
it's trying to, I think, like with women, they're trying to overcorrect these traditional marriage rules or traditional women rules where it goes into an extreme where women are being put above men, and men, because there's been this quote-unquote patriarchy, that men need to sit down and be quiet and women need to step up. And I think with men, there's this toxic masculinity that I know you guys are going to speak more on, that basically you shouldn't be in the kitchen because that's a woman's role, and you shouldn't be this because you know what I'm saying, like,
and you're an a-hole to everyone, and you just go around beating people up, and that's toxic,
yeah,
take whatever woman you want.
You're not gonna hold your baby because that's a woman's role. You're not gonna, you know what I mean?
Right. I just lost what I was going to say. I had something with that.
Sorry.
No, you're all right. But I guess what do you think the problem is, Matt, these days?
I think this is something we could talk about I mean, I don't even think we're going to cover the whole thing in the next half hour. I think it's something we should come back and revisit a couple times. But, I mean, I think you should define, or we should define,
what a man and a woman is. which is
hard enough right now,
that can
right?
get into a political conversation. You can talk about, there's some definitions on here for feminism and toxic masculinity.
It was by the Oxford languages.
Yes.
But
Good old Oxford.
But what do you guys think of just masculinity in general? Like, how would you define that, or what does it mean to you?
I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways you could take it as far as when I think of, I guess, masculinity. I mean, I think of men. That's why I said you almost have to define like what's a man and a woman, because I mean I think to really get into it too. I mean, you could even take it back to the Bible, referencing the Bible, of which I'm pretty sure is what JP would do, baby.
JP Pocock?
Oh, Jordan Peterson.
Oh.
I thought you were talking about Pocock too.
Jordan Peterson. Excuse me. But I mean, yeah. I mean, I think you have to kind of define like what a man and a woman is and the differences in them, because I believe that I think you can scientifically prove it through the Bible as well, that obviously there's two genders.
Okay,
There's,
well, we all,
Well,
besides
okay,
all this stuff going on, we all know.
Let's not go into this conversation right now.
We can skip the part where we know what a man and a woman is.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Let's talk about...
We have two men in this room and one woman.
Yes.
Okay, so what does it mean to you to be a man? Like, I'm looking at this list, right? A woman's supposed to be gentle.
Right.
Are you ever gentle?
Well, I'd say definitely so with my
I mean,
daughter.
you have two women in your life.
Right.
Should men not be gentle towards women and children?
Well, I think men and women can share characteristics.
Exactly.
As
For
well.
sure,
Right.
yeah.
Right? And should a man be tough?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And should a woman?
Oh, yeah, tenfolds.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a very fine line between you could take all these characteristics and mix them up, and you wouldn't know if it was a man or a woman, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, if we just scrambled all these, like, or I mean, I think these words are kind of BS. That obviously
there's
the
things on this,
stereotypes, but I mean, yeah, like you're saying, if we picked actual attributes of a person and we just put them all like in a line, like tough, courageous, strong, gentle, brave.
Right. Let's stop right there. Right. One of the first things I think about, if you just wanted to start to define masculinity, like I just said, men should be gentle and kind to women and children.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind. But they also have to have the part in them that is, like you just mentioned, tough, strong, and brave.
And I think you could say even physical.
Yeah.
Well, too, yeah.
Emotionally, spiritually even, right? The difference is knowing when to be kind and gentle, and when to be strong, tough, and brave.
For sure.
And that's the part I think people are getting messed up, right? We have too many men who are a-holes to people or in situations where they should be kind.
Right.
And
or
too many,
gentle.
yeah, and then too many who chicken out and are cowardly when you could quote unquote really use a man.
Right. For sure.
Right.
But sorry, go ahead. I want you to finish this before I bring up a point.
But at the same time, can you not say that women need to be all those same things too? They might be in a different way.
Yeah.
But it would be hard for you to get through your life without ever being brave, strong, or tough.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not in the same exact way we think of it.
Right.
So first of all, you'd have to define what these words mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very...
Which I don't know if we're even talking about these stereotypes. I mean, these are just the
right,
characteristics of men and women, or people. We could say even people. The one thing, though, I was going to ask you what you think about this, because I think there is a separation, though, in between, like... This is where I was getting at when we're talking about men and women, right? Because God made women. There's a different hormonal setup, a different hormonal panel that we both have. It's been proven that when they did autopsies on men and women's brains, different parts of our brain were bigger than theirs, and they had bigger parts or smaller, different parts than a man's brain. And I think God made us like that for a reason, because we fulfill two different roles. Now what we're saying is we share characteristics. All people, men or women, share characteristics, but I believe some I believe men and women potentially are made different to have different roles to fulfill a family team or a family picture, which is what God created us to do.
I agree with that.
I'll add on to that. I think there are situations where a man can be more feminine and a woman can be more masculine, as far as maybe it makes sense for a man to stay at home with the children and a woman to go to work. And I don't think that makes him any less masculine.
That's what I was just going to say.
Right. But he also needs, just man and woman needs to step up for their family.
But they can still share. They can still have different roles, though, that are more towards a man or more towards a woman.
Right.
I mean, like work or providing, I mean, is essentially, in my opinion, is essentially you say the man's job, but that doesn't have to mean economically.
Well, to go to your example, I'd want to know why that man stays home. Does he just not want to work?
Well, yeah, it depends on
the situation. He sends his wife out there to do everything because he gets to stay at home. And what's the reason? That would make a huge difference.
And I think it's whatever works for that couple, but you have to have kind of, I mean, you look at, and I don't have this in front of me, I apologize, but you look at the statistics for children who don't grow up with a father figure. That doesn't mean they're going out to work. That doesn't mean, like, their father leaves, which is unfortunately the case. Like, it's happening more and more often. And these kids, they struggle in life and they end up repeating the same patterns. They don't show up for their family. And obviously there's situations where this isn't the case, but you need a mother and a father. And those, I guess, quote unquote, stereotypes, as far as that goes, like Eden is Ian and my daughter, and she's very tough. And Ian plays rough with her, as far as like, we don't want her to be a quote unquote sissy. Like we want her to be tough. We want her to do jujitsu. We want her to be able to stand up for herself. And she also cooks with me. She plays with baby dolls. She puts them to sleep and gives them kisses. And Ian is gentle with her and I'm tough with her, but she gets those like core attributes from each of us, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know.
Right. She's also getting a sense from you what a woman should be.
Yeah.
And she's too young, but she will get a sense of how a man should treat her.
Because she's usually you end up marrying somebody like your father.
Yep.
Like a woman ends up marrying somebody like their father. So if a girl grows up in an abusive situation with her father, she's more likely to marry an abusive man. And the same with men and women. I mean, I think, as weird as it sounds, when you're dating somebody, you kind of... Ian reminds me a lot of my father and my stepfather, kind of attributes of both of them. And I think that's a very positive thing. I love both my father and my stepfather. And I think I remind Ian a lot of his mother. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I also think if you are in any kind of abusive, emotionally, physically abusive situation, that needs to obviously get addressed before you go into dating. But that's a whole nother subject as well.
Right. Well, you were like taught it.
Right.
That's what love is from the most important man.
Right.
In my life.
Yeah.
You know, and if you go back to the point where you said women are raising children by themselves, you mean these men leave.
Yeah.
And all different kinds of reasons why. But these guys probably have women with other children.
Yeah.
They're probably living some rough, tough life, and they think they're men.
Yeah.
But they're not.
Yeah. No.
They're the opposite of men because they didn't have, let's just start with love. That's not even,
right.
They didn't even have the love to stay around for them.
Right.
Right. And I don't think anybody thinks those guys are men, real men.
No, besides them.
Yeah,
I mean,
and probably the people they hang out with.
Yeah. And Ian and I have kind of had discussions about this whole toxic masculinity. I believe that what you just explained is toxic masculinity. But I don't think other people would explain that as toxic masculinity, which if we want to kind of get into that conversation, we can. Because this whole movement of feminism and toxic masculinity has kind of, I mean, it's exploded. Like,
yeah.
And it can get into a political conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think we necessarily need to do that. But
we're trying not to make it political, obviously, but it's hard because that's what I think the world or the media and stuff starts getting into politics.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, the definition of it is right here: toxic masculinity as a buzzword that everybody's using. I mean, can men be toxic? Absolutely.
So
right.
Women.
I mean, I don't like that word either, but so can women.
Oh, for sure.
So what are we talking about here?
I mean, your dog could be toxic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess how do you define
my
toxic?
cat is toxic. He's not good for my mental health.
But Kylie and I have talked about this a lot. I'm very passionate about masculinity because that's right. That's something I think when like you're growing up or whatever. Like when I was going from like the age of like 17 to like 25, and basically at that point you're really becoming a man because you're getting into your career. You're trying to find somebody you want to date, to potentially marry, start a family. Like you're starting to get your own house or apartment. Like it's the transition period of like of becoming a man. Basically, is what from your teenager transitioning into that. And so like I struggle with a lot of like depression, anxiety, and just a lot of other things. So I followed a lot of other guys like one of the most biggest blogs out there right now, which is an amazing blog if you're a man and want something to read. It's called Art of Masculinity. I cannot remember the gentleman's the author's name, but an amazing blog. And basically the thing is they study and try to, like, men of the past, public figures, whoever, of how to try to be a man, a masculine man. And when I say masculine man, it's not the definition, which I'm going to get into. It's not. It doesn't mean what we read earlier is what I'm saying when I say masculinity. It's the definition of what he has for masculinity, which is how to basically how to be basically a good person. I mean how to treat women right, how to have proper skills to do things around the house or take care of finance. I mean everything we're talking about: faith, finances, fitness, staying in good health, protect your family, and all this other stuff. And ultimately, too, which is something that drives me up a freaking wall that I want to talk about, is testosterone. How to actually increase your testosterone, because that is the number one thing I think that we're seeing. And I wish I would have looked up statistics and had I could have just blurted off statistics for this. But go Google it. Right now, men are at an all-time low for testosterone levels, and there's a lot of contributing factors. And it can be what we're eating, what the plastic crap we're drinking out of. I mean, there could be a lot of other things that go into this, or the fact that we're just fat and lazy and don't want to do anything. I mean, but regardless, men's testosterone levels are declining at a younger age, farther than ever. So it's showing that men are between like 18 and 30. Most men's testosterone doesn't start decreasing until they're 30. Is about the peak where it starts decreasing, 30 to 35. It's showing that there's men between their 18 and 25, those testosterone levels are reaching an all-time low. And that is horrible, because that goes, I think that goes in with masculinity and giving you the attributes and vigor that you need in your life. And like, for an example, we brought these examples that were this is toxic for toxic masculinity, or this is the harmful concept of masculinity. It also is a significant importance on manliness based on, and this is basically saying attributes of toxic masculinity are strength. Right? Am I reading this right, Kylie? Did I say that correctly? These are the
it's like the harmful concept of masculinity.
Right. That's what I'm saying. These are the harmful effects of these. It's saying it's strength, lack of emotion, Sufficiency. Is that serious? Is that seriously on there? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
self-sufficiency, dominance, and sexual virility. I even
which
like
just
that
means
word better.
high sex drive.
Yeah, high sex drive.
Yeah.
Those are all freaking attributes a man needs to have or should have, but they're defined the wrong way when you read them from someone with this toxic masculinity bullcrap. Men, like that's what testosterone does. Men and women have more estrogen, men have more testosterone. Women still have testosterone, men still have estrogen, but they're at low levels because they still need a little bit of the opposite sex hormone to function correctly. But Kylie's testosterone may be like 100 DNL, and mine might be like 800, right? Because it's done like that because we're two different freaking breeds of gender. Because these are attributes that those hormones give us, right? I mean, now, like you said, both sexes have these attributes, but they're more prominent, or can be more prominent in the other sex. So when I'm looking at this, I'm just going to go line for line for these attributes. For example, strength. I mean, everybody wants to have strength, but I mean, you can go look up, Google it, whatever research paper, books you want to read. Strength is longevity. If you're stronger, you're going to live longer. More muscle mass is going to lead to a longer life. It's going to stop osteoporosis of older people. Men are, I'm not saying women aren't, but they're supposed to be strong, and they're physically by genetics going to be stronger than women. Lack of emotion. Now, I don't think it's a lack of emotion. I think it's a control of fear is what that is. It's not a lack of emotion. Now, men may show, per se, you could say, lack of emotion, but is it actually a lack of emotion, or is it controlling the fears or something they're afraid of to deal with the situation, and they're actually processing and dealing with their emotions differently or better than just per se having a lack of emotion, just because they don't express it the same as a woman does, because we have different hormonal panels, Matt.
Or can you even say that there's a difference between having emotions and not being emotional?
Right, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we all have emotions.
That's a very good point, too.
When I come to Ian with a problem, he wants to fix it. I'm sobbing because I cry at the drop of a hat about a situation, and Ian may not be showing emotion, but
he has them.
He's thinking of a way to fix it. He's not crying with me, but he wants to fix it for me. So he's still having that emotion. It's just not an outward emotion, because guys are fix-it people.
And I guess that's my point. Like what I was getting at with, right, men. Repeat what you said. That line. There's not a lack of emotion. It's
not that there's a difference between having emotions and being emotional.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And
being emotional is the behavior that comes with the emotions.
Right.
You can feel them and keep it to yourself, or keep going with what you're doing. You don't have to have a breakdown just because.
Right.
I'm not calling what you said a breakdown.
It's good. I break down more than
it's not even a breakdown. It's just how they deal with.
Yeah.
It's just how people deal with emotions.
Right.
Like you said, just because I don't bawl my eyes out doesn't mean I'm not processing and having a lack of emotion with something.
Right. Let's take it that if something happened to Eden, you two might handle it very differently.
Right.
Right? I don't know what you would do. I don't know either. Okay. You may act in the moment, like, what can I do? Kind of go into like a hero. That doesn't mean he's not terrified, sad, whatever.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean by the difference between emotion and emotional. But if he falls into a puddle of tears, he's no good to anybody.
So just real quick, I want to tell the story of when I gave birth to our daughter. It was, I hate to use the word traumatic because I think it's overused, but it was a traumatic birth situation. I had to go in for an emergency C-section. Ian had to stay in the room, but Ian also had to call all of our parents to tell him what was tell them what was happening. And he had to be strong for me, for Eden. He was terrified. I mean, I loved our nurses. One of the nurses turned to him and said, "You need to say goodbye to your wife." And like, just hearing those words, like, I immediately went into survival mode. Ian obviously did too. He wasn't sobbing. He had to be strong for us. And he was. And obviously we're fine now. Like, our doctors were amazing. The nurses were amazing. But we both had some trauma from that. And we just showed it very differently.
Well, and let's take it one step further. If he calls his mom and dad and your mom and dad and the grandparents and he's hysterical Now they're losing their minds.
Exactly.
Right? And the situation just, so he stays calm.
Can I actually share? I actually remember that because I was like, oh crap. Kylie's mom's like literally, she's like sitting outside the hospital.
Yeah.
She's
it was during COVID. Nobody could be in there except for Ian.
And
he was my emotional support person.
all that was going on. They taken her back, and I have no idea what was going on for, it didn't really take that long. It was like 10 or 15 minutes, and then they had eaten out or whatever, but I was like, I guess I should probably call her. And so I called her, and I never had something like that happen before. Obviously first time we've had a kid, so I don't know, I guess the circumstance, I don't know what the actual, I'm assuming it was probably way more under control than probably what we realized because the doctors have done this so many times, and all that stuff. But to us, or to me, I was like, man, this is like, I was kind of scared.
How dare you?
That's not very.
You had the emotion of
toxic
fear.
masculinity of you.
I was nervous or scared a little bit, but I was like, so I remember I called Tammy, and she picked up the phone, and she's like, hey, is the baby out yet or whatever? I was like, yeah, they're working on it. She's like, well, what do you mean? Like, oh, she's just having a C-section. Was everything okay? I was like, technically no, but I didn't. I'm not saying this, but in my mind, I'm like, no. But I was like, it's going okay.
Which you didn't have any answers.
She's like, what's
either.
that mean? I was like, well, they're just a small minor problem. They're just taking care of it. They have to do a C-section, and of course, her mom's like freaking out. But I like what you're saying. Like I had to deal with that. And me just calling her and just like. Bawling my eyes out, or like freaking out, saying like, "Hey, do you think my wife's gonna die? Or do you think my wife's gonna die? Or do you think that's right? I wasn't gonna do anything."
Well, she's going through a lot at in that moment, right? A lot of pain, a lot of fear.
Yes.
So this isn't physically. What did you have to be?
You mean like supportive, emotionally?
You had to be strong.
Well, strong.
Right.
Well, right.
If you have weakness, now you can't help her at all.
Right.
Right.
But if you stay strong, you can. Right. So strength isn't also just
right. Or her mom when I had to call, and
and if the situation was reversed, you would have to be
for sure
strong.
Yeah.
The next one here. So we got the next one, self-sufficiency. I think this is blows my mind. It's even on the list. And I was literally just reading. Or rereading. It's taking me a long time to read it. The 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. And I think I watched one of his videos the other day too, or whatever. But women don't want to mate with a man that is worthless. Or vice versa. But if men aren't sufficient or can't do anything, it's no wonder they have so many problems in their life or do anything. Who wants to be their friend? Who wants to mate with them? Who wants to do anything with that person? So that just even blows my mind on there. Now dominance, and I think men need. People. Obviously, we're talking about toxic masculinity. Men need dominance. They need to dominate whatever they're doing. If they're doing a competition, if they're running a business, if they're whatever they're doing, they should dominate their competition or dominate whatever they're working on. I don't think it's a bad attribute. And I think this last one's rather stupid as well. Sexual virility.
High sex drive.
Yeah, I know it means high sex drive. I was just trying to think how appropriate my next words were going to be on how I said this.
I want my husband to have a high sex drive.
Right.
Like, I don't know why that's on there. I don't think that's a harmful concept.
Go ask
of a man.
We should do a poll. We should just do a random poll around the gym, and
maybe not.
Yeah, we'll just do a random poll and just ask to all the women, and as they come in the gym, let's just go up to them and be like, hey, if you had to date somebody, your husband or whatever, right now, would you want them to have man boobs, a big stomach, and their PP only works, maybe once every 5 months, if that?
Oh my gosh, Ian.
No, there's no woman that's going to say, yeah, that's what I look for. That's like my dream. That's
there
like
might be
my
a couple. There might be a couple. Maybe not in this gym, but out there.
It's not too many.
But I think, do you see where I think they're trying to come from? You talked about a different kind of dominance.
Right, and I did.
They're probably talking about,
and everything
you dominate her.
Right.
Right.
And the stereotype with the sexual drive, it's like, oh, well, then you can't be monogamous. If you have a high sex drive, you probably have to do it 15 times a day with 15 different people.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's how you respect yourself and how you respect others with that. I think that's where the whole quote unquote toxic masculinity, just like the word feminism, it's lost its meaning. Because this is where Ian and I have had debates about it. There are toxic men, just like there's toxic women.
Right.
And I think normal men, though, are getting labeled as this toxic masculinity for just living, let's say, traditional marriage roles. Like, I work sometimes at the gym, but I'm more a stay-at-home mom. Ian works full-time at the gym. And there are women who would call Ian a toxic man for, quote unquote, not letting me work. If I could get some health insurance, he would love for me to work. And that was my choice. That's our choice. And this is on subject, but it's off subject too. Matthew, I want your opinion. You have had to raise children and now teenagers as a single man, which by the time this comes out, you'll be married. Congratulations. But how has having to play kind of the mom and dad role affected your view on how a man should act? Does that make sense?
Yes. First, I'll say that it's hard for me to, having them only 2 or 3 days a week. I don't know if I could say I'm raising them.
Well, okay.
But,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever thought of it as being, how did you phrase it? The man and the woman? Or the mother and the
mother.
father?
I said the mother and the father because I think, I'm asking this because I have a father. I have a good relationship with my mom too, but my dad was and is a single man. He had to play, when I was going through breakups, when I was going through things and I was at his house, he had to play kind of almost the role of it wasn't playing the role as a mother, but I think some people would say it was because he had to comfort me when I was crying.
Yeah, see, I'll always go back to that first kind of definition that we talked about. Like I hope that my kids see both sides of what I think a man should be.
Right.
And I'll just say that. I think that they see at times, even with them, I have a softer side, that I have it with Lisa, right? That I have it with people in general. There's no reason to walk around life like some tough, you should start you should treat people with kindness and respect and all that. But they also see the other side of me, right? And that...
that's your honey badger.
My honey badger, sure.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's coming to tournaments...
You're a honey badger.
Well, whatever you want to call it. When Meg she'll kill me. She doesn't listen to this, so it doesn't matter. She was with me when she had her period.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And didn't know what to do and blah. And I'm kind of proud of the way I handled it. Yeah. I didn't freak out. I didn't call her mom. I was just like, all right, I think I know what to do. And we drove up to CVS.
Right.
We've been in a couple emergency situations where they saw me just keep my cool and handle it instead of freaking out. Like, right. I think all of us as parents, have to show our kids both sides.
Absolutely.
I don't think men are just this and women are just that. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think when we do this again, we should talk about, okay, then what separates it? If we have these same characteristics, then what are the slight differences? Because I think those are hugely important.
That's what really gets into is how to separate it. Before we wrap it up though, like if we want to share, like what are some. So I guess we're talking about, okay, what is masculinity and femininity? That word's tripping me up today. So I'll let Kylie go first. Like what, like just real quick. It doesn't have to be elaborate. But like what characteristics should a woman have then?
Well, I mean, I think we've been talking about it the whole podcast. I think as a mother, because I've only been a mother for 2 years, it's changed my view on how a woman should be. As far as, if you asked me in high school, I'd say I'm absolutely a feminist. Women can do anything men can do. And I still think that. But I also think I am my strongest when I'm a good mom and when I'm a good wife. And the whole 4 pillars, I'm my strongest when I get my time in the Bible and when my husband does our finances, when I'm listening to him. I mean, a compliment that I gave to Ian that really stood out to him that I didn't I didn't think was that big is when we go grocery shopping, we don't necessarily have to look at the price of everything. And I said, thank you for making that possible. And I think that right there is like a man, and it doesn't always have to be a man's job, but like just me being supportive of my husband, that's when I'm my strongest because I have a good husband. And I know that kind of was elaborate, so you can go on to your definition.
Just before we wrap it up, like, and you can go, Matt. Easily, what I just went over earlier. I think men should have strength. And I'm not going to say lack of emotion, but I'm going to say, be able to
control of emotion.
Yeah, it's not a lack of emotion; it's control of emotion. They should be self-sufficient, and they should dominate things, and they should have sexual virility. As well as, I'm not saying they shouldn't have any other characteristics, but I think men should have those. I should say it's okay to have those. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I know Kylie's got to get out of here, and I really hope we talk about this again because
we could make a part 2. This could be part 1.
Part 2.
This could be a 100-part series.
It
really could.
Well, that was our introduction to femininity. Am I saying that right? Femininity?
Yeah. I
okay.
think so.
So this is our introduction to femininity and masculinity. And thanks for listening. And don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, all that jazz. Follow us on the Apple Podcast or Google Podcast. And try to be a little bit more masculine and a little bit more feminine this week, baby.
We would also love to hear what you guys want to hear from us, too. So put that in wherever you're listening from, put it in the comments or send us a message, too.
Do you believe it? You can achieve it. We'll see you in the gym soon.